Hey y'all, it's Linda. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am going to be doing the palette tag part 2. This was started by Samantha March and Allie Glines here on YouTube. I'm going to link all their information down below, but I'm just going to be going through different palettes in my collection and letting you know various answers to the various questions. And the reason that I specifically like this tag right now for me is because, as you know, I'm a broken record over here. I am doing my very first low buy. So part of my first low buy year is really learning to appreciate what's in my collection and not save the good stuff anymore. You know, the good stuff, not save it for a special occasion, but pull it out on a random Tuesday. That sounds dirty. But really just to use it, because we get one life, we have these beautiful items in our collections, we should be using them. But as I go over the answers to each of these questions, I want you to do the same in the comments below. I want you to tell me your answers to each one of these questions, because if you are on a low buy, if you are on a no buy, or even if you are buying everything in sight, it's good to appreciate what you do have in your collection. So take a look at your collection as I'm going through these questions. The questions will also be in the description box down below, and answer them along with me so we can all appreciate the gorgeousness and glory of eyeshadow palettes in days gone by. Why am I doing the butterfly? Why ask why? Bud dry. Now, I do want to warn you that several palettes that I'm going to be talking about are discontinued, but this video is not supposed to be about making you want to buy more and more and more. It's supposed to be more about appreciating what's in your collection. So we are going to start with, what is your all-time favorite palette? If you've been on my channel for 15 to 20 minutes, you already know that it's the Melt Gemini palette. This is my ideal color story. These kind of grungy tones, these like deeper tones. I love this palette with the love of 1,000 suns. And if you're asking yourself, why does this palette look completely unused if it's an all-time favorite? That's because this is my second palette. So I bought the first one and everything was going great, and I noticed that a few of the shadows had popped out, which apparently I'm finding out later was a pretty common problem with this palette, unfortunately. And I emailed customer service and I just said, hey, do you have any suggestions for how I should press these back in, or how I should be handling this palette differently, because I love it so, so much. And they said, don't even worry about it, we're sending you a new one, which shocked me. So I'm still using up the old one, even though a few shades have fallen out. But this color story, I just adore it. I wish they would bring this back. I know they're not going to, but it's just, it's perfection. This is my all-time favorite color story that has ever been created. Moving on to, what is a new favorite palette of yours? And that is the Charlotte Tilbury Smoky Eyes Are Forever palette. Do those look the same? Okay, so here we have Gemini and here we have Smoky Eyes Are... You know what? These are not the same, but they definitely have a similar vibe, right? Like, this definitely has way more shimmers in it, but the vibes are not that different. Whoa. Only just now noticing that. Okay, but I really, really love this palette way more than I ever expected to. When I saw it in pictures, when I saw it in videos even, I was just turned off by it. It just didn't look like anything to me. And once I saw this in person, I fell in love with it. And I have not been able to put this down since I got it. And I've only gotten it this year. So that should tell you something. I've only had it for like less than a month and I've used it so many times. The quality is so good. The color story, obviously I like it. It is very similar to Gemini in a way, which is really cool. I don't know how I never noticed that until I just held that up. But like, yeah, you've got like the dark black and the kind of warm brown reds. You've got these like neutral tones. You've got the dark shimmery green. Not quite a dupe, but not that far off. But anyway, really fantastic palette. The quality is brilliant and I just love it. A palette that I keep for the memories. This one might not count, but I'm going to throw it in here anyway. And if I'm being honest, this might be something that I wind up forcing myself to declutter. I'm going to be doing my declutter at the end of like June, that kind of time range. But that is my very first MAC quad that I ever created. So MAC is not a cruelty-free brand. I did start using only cruelty-free products in 2018. So wow, this is going on my 4th year. That's kind of crazy to me. But MAC for me was the brand that started my love of makeup. They really, really did. I just thought that they were so unique and so innovative and the quality was so amazing. And to be honest, there weren't a whole lot of high-end makeup brands that were targeted at a younger audience. So there were things like, you know, Dior and Chanel, and there's been this high-end makeup for a very long time, but at the same time, like, I feel like MAC was targeting my age group when I was in like my early 20s. And this was the quad that I created myself. This one is basically gone. They all have a lot of pan. You can see it there. Like, I used this so much, and I'll be honest, like, I don't really reach for it anymore, but I have a hard time letting it go. These shadows were so expensive to me when I purchased them that I just have a hard time letting it go, and it does give me a little bit of the feels. I'm pissed that MAC is not cruelty free because I do miss them. I do, even though they're not as like cool and edgy as they used to be, I still miss them. Most underrated palette. Oh my gosh. Okay, I've talked about this palette a bunch of times, and it's one of those things where if you know, you know, because the people that have tried it understand the magic this palette brings, and everyone else I feel like looks at it and they're just like meh. And that's the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette. So this is one of my favorite naked palettes. Look at that. Look at that color story. The quality is so good on these. And we do have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, five shimmers. 5 shimmers, and this is their usual 12 pan palette. It is 12, right? Yeah, it's 12. But this is just such a warm golden color story that I feel like really complements every eye color, every skin tone. I have never seen this look bad on anyone. And again, anyone who's ever tried it sings its praises. Every time that I have convinced somebody to buy this, and I think I've convinced a lot of people to buy this because I love it so much. Every single time, I've never had one person come back to me and be like, yo, that sucks and you suck, unsubscribe. I just pinched my finger. But really, if you are looking for a good neutral palette with pops of gold, I really recommend this one. Yes, it is on the higher priced end as opposed to some drugstore alternatives, but it is lower priced than any Natasha Denona palette, for example, and I do really think it's worth it. Also, this commonly goes on sale on Urban Decay's site and on Ulta for 50% off, which brings it to, I think, $24.50 when it goes on sale. Very worth it at that price point, very worth it at full price. So just, I love it. I want to make babies with it. All right, this question. This one was between 2 different palettes for me, but I did choose this one. Not a fave, but can't get rid of it. And that is the Kat Von D and Divine palette. So if you did not know, I do live in Baltimore. I have lived in Baltimore for over 20 years now. It's my home. I love Baltimore. If you've ever been here, you might know that it's just kind of like quirky and weird, but awesome. And this palette is like Baltimore in a palette. I have to be careful because a bunch of the shades broke. Now the color story is nice. It really is, but it doesn't do a whole lot for me, mainly because the 2 shimmers here and here were just pretty terrible, if we're being honest. This one, which is Hairspray, fell out completely. This one, which is Babs, is just like shattered and falling out of the pan. But I have to admit, I can't get rid of it just because it does give me like the feels and these names even. So this one is straight up Baltimore. This one is Waters. You know, I love it. I love it so much. This one's Filthy, and Filthy is Divine. Divine was Filthy. Look, oh my God, I didn't even realize that. I've got this mug today. I've got my Divine mug. Really, though, it just screams Baltimore to me, and I loved Divine. I've gone to visit Divine's grave several times. She is buried quite close to where I live, and I even took the packaging from this palette when I got it, and I left it at Divine's grave because a lot of people will leave trinkets and cool things for her, and I did leave this because I do think that this is something she would have been quite proud of. So, yeah, this is one that is definitely not a favorite, but I can't get rid of it. This was probably the hardest question on here for me. My favorite collab. So, oh my gosh, even as I'm sitting here, I'm like questioning my decision, but I'm gonna go for this one. And I chose the Shroud and Butte Bean / Baddie Bean It's Freakin' Bats palette. This color story is so unique. It is hands down probably one of the most unique color stories I own / have ever seen. And I just love it. The quality is so good. I don't know if you can tell how much of a dip there is in this palette at this point, especially in Trappa, excuse me, and Adams. I have used those colors so much. You would think that Spooky would be the color I'd use most. Name of my cat. Thank you very much. But no, just, I love this. I love this palette. I'm so glad it's available again. Oh my God, so people can actually get their hands on it. But the quality is really brilliant, and the color story drew me in so much. I have to say, my second runner-up was the ColourPop and Raw Beauty Christie palette. I love that palette. What's it called? At Forest Sight. I love it. I think the quality is so, so, so good. I think it's the best ColourPop quality palette I own. I love it so much, but this has taken top bids today. My 2021 fave. So I did rank every single palette I tried in 2021. I'll link that video right up here if you haven't seen it. But spoiler alert, what took the #1 spot was the Melt Amor y Mariposas palette. I wound up loving this so much more than I thought I would. I basically got this for my collection because I was like, oh, it looks nice and the swatches look nice, but the quality is so damn good on this palette, and the color story with these like jewel tones and very much like butterfly tones and nature, I just love it. I think it's really, really, really gorgeous. And I do also think that this belongs in the underrated category because it was a more expensive palette. This was $70. So I think a lot of people didn't buy it specifically because of that price point. But I really do feel like it's worth it for the amount of shadows that you get, the amount of pigment that you get, because you touch this in the pan once and you get full opacity. So it's not like you have to keep digging in there with like you would with a lower quality palette. So I love this palette. This was my favorite of 2021 and I need to keep using it even more. I'm having a flat hair day and I'm not happy about it. But when I puff it out, it gets real big. What's going on, hair? My palette that I did not expect to love. So I'm cheating with this one and I'm doing 2. I'm kind of doing 4, but I'll explain. But first I want to talk about the Likely Makeup Ugly palette. So when I saw this online, I was like, oh, okay, you know what? It's a rainbow palette. It's a rainbow palette from a brand I've never tried before. Let's give it a shot. I was not prepared, y'all. I was not prepared for how pigmented this palette is. It is so stunningly pigmented that you do not need another rainbow palette in your collection. I said it, okay? I said it. And I own a lot of rainbow palettes and I'm not getting rid of them, okay? So do as I say, not as I do. But these just, okay, I wasn't gonna swatch like any palettes. Do you see how vibrant that lime green is? Let's just do another one. Let's do this pink. The colors are so amazing. Even yellow, which is a hard color to do. Okay, one more. Look at this. You do not need another rainbow palette. This is it. This is the tits. The packaging is so nice and slim and lightweight. The price is so right on this. I just think everything about this is awesome. And again, when I brought this into my collection, I was like, okay, well, it's just another rainbow palette to have, and I don't mind having multiples. Did not expect to be as obsessed with it as I am. Just to show you how pigmented, I just wiped this completely off, and this is what we're left with. I need to wash my hands. So I already told you I cheated on this one, but another palette that I didn't expect to love as much, I'm including 3 in here, and those are the Kaja eyeshadow stacks. So these are their beauty bentos, and I have 3 of them. All 3 are so amazing. Now, when I saw these, I was kind of like, meh, they're kind of like basic bitch shadows, right? This quad has all shimmers, and these have all mattes. These are so lovely. They are so pigmented. Obviously, they're incredibly compact. Like, if you want to take 9 shadows with you, look how much room this takes up. It is so good, and the quality is so, so good on these. So creamy and so smooth and so pigmented. I love these. So I have Velvet Dream, which is a more warm color story. I have Neutral Moment, which is definitely a more cool toned color story. And then Smolder Season is all shimmers. I don't regret owning all 3 of these for a second. I actually dip into these way more than I expected. Way, way more than I expected. Again, I kind of thought these would just be like, cool, brown shadow, revolutionary, but they're so good. As for a palette that sparks joy, this was also one that I had to think about because my collection, I'm trying to be very good about not bringing stuff into the collection that doesn't spark joy. So if everything sparks joy, how do I answer this question? But the one that my brain kind of immediately went to was the Melt Vida palette. I know most people liked Muerte more. That was kind of like the other side to this. But Vida is the one that instantly spoke to my heart. Oh, God, I love this color story so much. And it is the definition of sparks joy because between these fiery orangey reds, these bright greens, these neutral browns, like this is such a gorgeous color story to me. I feel like it fully encapsulates like this art, this kind of bright feel of Oh my God, it makes my heart go pitter patter. It really, really does. And a lot of my palettes do that, but I think none more than this one. Everything from the packaging, even like the filigree around the mirror, to of course these colors and the quality. It's absolutely brilliant. This is the palette that sparks joy the most for me. The newest palette in my collection. I'm lying a bit on this one. So technically the newest palette in my collection is something I can't talk about yet, but stay tuned. The next newest one is the Nomad Whistler Snow Lodge palette. I love this. If you saw my video on this, you know I'm freaking obsessed. I've been using this so much. The quality on this, I keep saying the quality is so good, but that's what it is. If something's not quality, I don't want it in my collection, and I'm absolutely not going to be talking about it in a favorite palettes video. This is so good. The mattes are very creamy and they blend well and they sit on top of each other nicely. The shimmers are intensely beautiful and foiled, especially if you use them wet. I really do like this color story. I really do think it's a cohesive color story. And what's interesting is that there's a couple shades in here. No, one. This shade right here, Up to Snow Good, is probably the only shade I can't really see myself using because I'm not a big fan of pinks. But other than that, every single shade in here I will use, and I can definitely see myself hitting pan on some of these before the year is over. I love it so much. And finally, the first palette I used in 2022. I always say, like, this is it. This is the thing that's going to make you unsubscribe. But I used the BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop Pistachio Palette, which I was so excited to find in TJ Maxx. I used it. I don't like it. Now, I do want to keep playing with it, because I know people swear that the quality of the sweet shops, the quality of pistachio is amazing. What am I missing here? Every time I've tried to use it, the shimmers are lackluster. I have tried them by themselves. I've tried them wet. I've tried them with NYX glitter glue. I've tried them with a brush, with a finger. Nothing seems to make these look good to me. The mattes, I find, are quite patchy, no matter what base I use. Again, I do want to keep playing with this because I've heard so many people talk about it in such a positive way. I don't like it. I don't like it. You guys tell me what I'm missing, okay? Tell me what your favorite look to do is with this palette, because otherwise this is one I'm going to be probably decluttering at some point. So that is it. Like I said, I want you to go down in the comments and leave your answers to these questions. I want to know all about your favorite palettes right now, the ones that are your favorites in 2021, your newest palette. Tell me all about it. Let's all appreciate the stuff that's in our collection right now at this very moment. And obviously that doesn't mean that you can't buy new and beautiful things to bring in, but it does mean that right now, right at this moment, right today, as you're watching this, take a look in your collection and just appreciate how beautiful what you have already is. What you already have is. But that's it. If you did like this video, I would love if you give it a thumbs up. That really does help out my channel. And also subscribe if you haven't already. You all can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Those are all GlitterFallout. And as always and forever, you are super freaking rock stars. And I love you so much with my whole heart. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.